Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the B segment of episode 23 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation S.P.A.C.E. We begin this segment with the Sector V operatives of the Kids Next Door in a spacecraft, Shuttle V, and heading for the Kids Next Door moon base headquarters. We also see that another individual is joining the Sector V operatives on their trip to the moon base. This individual is Number 3's younger sister, Mushi, voiced by Tara Strong. Number 3 and Mushi are playing with the radio on the spacecraft right now, much to the annoyance of the rest of the Sector V operatives, and eventually Number 1 turns the radio off, saying it will stay off unless they can all agree on a radio station. Number 1 also comments that they could get in serious trouble with the Kids Next Door organization because of Number 3's decision to bring Mushi with them to the moon base. Number 3, however, responds that Mushi goes wherever she goes because Number 3 was left in charge of Mushi while their mother is off at work. And we also see that Number 3 and Mushi have a very strong bond as sisters. They call each other best friends and they hug each other, for example. Number 4 can't help but question Number 5 if she ever acted that way with her older sister, Cree. Although Number 4 words it along the lines of if Number 5 had ever acted stupid around with Cree. That's along the lines of how Number 4 words it. And Number 5 simply questions if Number 4 is joking or not. Soon enough, though, Number 2 notices a distress beacon and he informs the rest of his teammates about it. They see a Kids Next Door prisoner transport in the middle of space and the engines have been destroyed. Number 1 attempts to contact the pilots of the prisoner transport, but no one responds, and Number 1 tries to figure out why wouldn't the pilots respond. Mushi suggests that maybe aliens have gotten to the pilots, but Number 1 is dismissive of the idea of aliens existing. Mushi, however, then proceeds to mess around with the controls of Shuttle V, and she starts to talk into the communicator that Number 1 was talking into just a little while ago to try and contact the aliens. This eventually leads to Shuttle V crashing into the prisoner transport. The food processor fuel drive is destroyed and the communication systems are destroyed as well, so they can't contact the moon base for help right now. Number 5, however, points out that the prisoner transport would also have a food processor fuel drive, so they could salvage the fuel drive of the prisoner transport to repair or replace the damaged one in Shuttle V right now. So Number 1 decides that he, Number 2, and Number 4 will go and salvage the food processor fuel drive of the prisoner transport. He wants Mushi to stay in Shuttle V, and he wants Number 3 to keep an eye on Mushi right now. And Number 1 makes sure to stress that they not answer the door for anyone until Number 1, Number 2, and Number 4 return. But Mushi questions what if someone tries to deliver a pizza, and Number 1 just gives an exasperated whatever in response as he, Number 2, and Number 4 head off to find the fuel drive. Growing fearful about Mushi's suggestions of aliens, Number 2 and Number 4 try to insist to Number 1 that maybe they should wear helmets and bring 2x4 technology as defense just in case, and Number 1 begrudgingly agrees to go along with it. And as number 1, number 2, and number 4 are heading for the fuel drive of the prisoner transport, we see someone lurking in the shadows. And eventually, someone rings the doorbell of Shuttle V, and number 3 and Mushi think someone is delivering a pizza. But when number 3 goes to open the door, she doesn't see anyone. And when number 3 steps out of Shuttle V, someone quickly enters Shuttle V and closes the door and takes off. So number 3 is left on the prisoner transport while Mushi is on Shuttle V right now. Meanwhile, with number 1, number 2, and number 4, they do find the area where the fuel drive should be, but number 2 says that someone has already taken it, and they're not sure what else to do. Suddenly, they start to hear groaning, and number 2 and number 4 fear that maybe it's aliens. Number 1 is still rather insistent about aliens not existing, but soon enough, two figures appear, and they seem to resemble aliens hopping around. And so number 1 is now convinced that aliens exist after all. So number 1, number 2, and number 4 attempt to return to Shuttle V, only to find number 3 and to see Shuttle V is taken off into space. So the 4 present Sector V operatives try to defend themselves against these alleged aliens. On Shuttle V, we see that number 5 had stayed behind as well. It turned out that number 5 needed to use the restroom, but when she exits the restroom, she sees Shuttle V. Yeah, she sees that Shuttle V is functioning again, and she's impressed that acquiring the new fuel drive was rather quick. But someone else is sitting in a chair right now, one of the chairs of the shuttle. And right now, the viewers don't see the individual. The back of the chair is facing the viewers right now, but a familiar voice comments how it's been a long time since she had fixed up a food processor fuel drive or something along those lines. Number 5 immediately recognizes the voice of this individual, and she casually agrees that this individual was always very skilled when it came to 2x4 technology. And then number 5 refers to the individual as number 11. The individual turns around, thus revealing to the audience that the individual is none other than Cree, and Cree is rather insistent that her younger sister refer to her by her name rather than her designated number or her code name in the Kids Next Door organization. Yeah, saying that she's now she's in an alliance with the adults rather than the Kids Next Door organization. Number 5 questions what her older sister is planning, and Cree is actually rather open about what exactly she's planning. Cree explains that she intentionally allowed the Sector V operatives to defeat her in Operation Kiss because she knew that she would be taken to the Moonbase headquarters. Cree also mentions that once arriving at the Moonbase, she would use the access code that she believes that she acquired from number 5's brain. In reality, the access code was actually something acquired from a dummy of number 5. But Cree doesn't know that, and she thinks that with this access code, Cree will be able to detach the moon base from the moon so it will float into the sun and be burnt up, hoping that destroying the moon base would destroy the Kids Next Door organization once and for all. But Cree explains that the prisoner transport ended up with its engines blowing up. The prisoner transport ended up stranded in space because the pilots were fighting over a trading card, and during the fight, one of the pilots accidentally hit a blow up the engines button. And Cree even comments, why would there be a blow up the engines button? After Mushi briefly interrupts Cree questioning about the aliens, number 5 takes the opportunity to attack Cree. So the Lincoln sisters proceed to fight each other for a while. And Mushi is also playing some music on the radio during the fight. But eventually, Cree is planning to throw number 5 into the trash ejector vessel and to leave her stranded in space, or at least to send her back to Earth so she won't be able to stop her. But as Cree is trying to force number 5 into the ejection pod, Mushi starts to question if Cree is actually serious about putting number 5 in the trash ejection pod. And Cree rhetorically questions if she looks like she's, Cree questions if it looks like she's pretending, and number 5 can clarify Cree is not pretending. And Mushi actually thinks that this is a bad thing because sisters are supposed to care about each other. So Mushi changes the radio station and she starts to give a speech about how she admits that she doesn't always get along with her older sister, number 3, and sometimes number 3 gets on her nerves and they have their disagreements. But at the end of the day, she knows that number 3 is a special person in her life who loves her, and that's what it's all about, being sisters. And number 5 and Cree do seem to be touched by Mushi's speech. Number 5 questions whatever happened between her and Cree just thinks she got older and things changed as she got older. And number 5 said that she was always proud of Cree. She was always proud to call Cree her older sister. When Cree was in the Kids Next Door organization, she even wanted to be like Cree when she was a Kids Next Door operative. And eventually this leads to the Lincoln sisters hugging each other, and Mushi is rather pleased by the sight of this. Number 5, though, says she has one last thing to say to Cree. Cree encourages number 5 to say what she wants to say. Number 5 says she beat Cree. Number 5 tosses Cree into the trash ejection pod and closes it up. Cree admits that she was going to do the same thing to number 5, but says number 5 was lucky that she did it first. So number 5 intends to send Cree back to Earth, and Cree says that number 5 will be in serious trouble once both the Lincoln sisters eventually return to Earth. So after Cree is sent out into the ejection pod to head back to Earth, Mushi admits that older sisters, Mushi comments along the lines about how older sisters always seem to fall for those heartwarming tearjerker moments. She chalks it up as a result of hormones. So back on the prisoner transport, we see the other Sector V operatives are trying to fight off the aliens with 2x4 technology, and eventually they seem to knock out the aliens. Eventually, Shuttle V returns, and Mushi and number 5 head out to find the rest of the Sector V operatives. But Mushi notices that the aliens aren't actually aliens, and we see that, in truth, the duo that the Sector V operatives have been facing off against were actually number 92 and number 93, the pilots of the prisoner transport. What the outfit that made them look like aliens was actually some kind of something Cree did in order to bind them and keep them from stopping her from escaping. Yeah, it was pretty much bound and gagged. That's actually what one of the two operatives actually describes what Cree did to them, so that's why they look like aliens. But number 92 and number 93 are not happy about being mistaken for aliens, and when they see Mushi present, they go on a rant about how the Kids Next Door organization as a whole are not going to be happy with Sector V bringing a non-operative with them, and they even go as far as to threaten, or at least suspect, that they're going to be decommissioned for this, and yet they still insist that the Sector V operatives help them out of the rest of their bondage. But naturally, the Sector V operatives are not happy about the threat of being decommissioned, so they end up attacking number 92 and number 93 still in retaliation for their earlier threats. And then we see the trash ejection pod that Cree is in floating towards Earth, but eventually it starts to head a different direction. It's heading for the moon base now. We see that Cree ended up messing with the controls of the ejection pod, and she's laughing to herself, commenting how this was all part of the plan. And that's how we end this segment. So this segment continues the storyline that we saw in Operation Support and Operation Kiss. And this segment also introduces us to a new character, the younger sister of number 3, Mushi. And it's rather amusing because this segment's sibling segment, Operation Caked 2, actually had number 3 bring up Mushi. She wasn't called by name in that segment, though. Number 3 simply said her younger sister. So that's rather amusing how in the same episode, episode 23, the A segment mentions number 3's younger sister, and the B segment formally introduces number 3's younger sister. And I believe I mentioned it before, but all of the Sector V operatives except for number 1 have siblings. So yeah, number 1 is the only single child among these Sector V operatives. So at this point in time, that means number 4's sibling has not yet been introduced. But we will meet number 4's sibling eventually. I believe season 3 is the first appearance of number 4's sibling. So we'll cross that bridge when we eventually get to it. But yes, we got to meet Mushi in this segment. And from what we saw of her, Mushi gets along very well with number 3. A very notable contrast compared to number 5's bond with her older sister, Cree. Having said that, though, Mushi did acknowledge in her speech that she and number 3 don't always get along with each other. And Mushi's speech and her comments afterwards when number 5 defeated Cree also indicate that Mushi has a rather cunning side to her. And this actually, yes, thanks to hindsight, this actually hints about something regarding Mushi's character. I don't want to give it away just yet for the sake of those who are just following along with these recap and thoughts videos, but yes, looking back on the series as a whole now, that seems to be a hint. That cunning side seems to be a hint about something about Mushi's character that will be revealed in time. Otherwise, yes, number 5 and Cree's bond as sisters is also brought up in this segment as well. We actually do have an answer for what Cree meant exactly in Operation Kiss when she said that she taught number 5 all of her fighting techniques. Cree actually was a member of the Kids Next Door organization at one point in the past. And number 5 even refers to Cree by her designated number or her codename in the organization, number 11. And we actually will get to see a few flashbacks in later entries that show Cree during her time in the Kids Next Door organization as number 11. And it is admittedly rather a tearjerker when you realize that Cree and number 5 used to be in the Kids Next Door organization together, but now Cree has betrayed the Kids Next Door organization. So that is kind of it kind of does help to explain the strain between number 5 and Cree's bond as sisters. Otherwise, yes, we see Cree being defeated at the end of the segment still wasn't a hindrance to her and father's long-term plan for the storyline, which is formally revealed to be their hope to send the moon base into the sun to be destroyed. And Cree is on her way to the moon base. Without giving too much else away for the sake of those just following along with these recap and thoughts videos, this storyline does conclude in the season 2 finale, which is a full episode rather than being split into segments. So that will be made clear eventually. But for now, there we go for this segment. So as of this video, we've now discussed the B segment of episode 23 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time.